Hi guys, I'm Mike Husband. This is Carlie. We just want to introduce you to the Oracle podcast. Today's all about introductions. A lot of the people that will be looking at this will understand and know who I am. You've seen me for 18 more years over across 400 service stations that we look after. Carlie, you've been out in the field and you've been basically for what now, more than a year or two now, you've been out there and you've been running around and you've been looking at it and seeing it all and understanding what's going on. We've been able to take that knowledge of our clients and what's happening on the ground in the field, and we've turned it into some pretty impressive training and some bits and pieces that are going to make you feel like you actually know enough about what you're doing to be able to do it. And that perception that you've got. Carlie, you came back from the field and you spoke to me about the culture of what you've seen out there. How's the culture? What's the feel of it?
Yeah. So a lot of the time we've found the staff just really want to feel like they know what they're doing, that they're supported, and that's what we're working really hard to provide. They want to know that they're meeting the requirements and totally stuffed all this up.
That doesn't matter because this is day one. This is our introduction to what we're doing. Look, we're not professional podcasters, guys, and we certainly don't attempt to be that. Okay, hopefully one day that's where you look at us. But right now,
So we do.
it doesn't need to edit and cut it out. These guys are real people. So basically, what we're trying to do, we're coming back to you with what we've identified in the marketplace as the needs that you've got. Carl's has come back and said to me, "Hey, Michael, these people trust you so much. It's amazing." And I'm like, "Well, that's because we do what's necessary. We don't go beyond, and we don't try and make an enterprise out of what we do. Okay, this is what we do for a living, and you do what you do for a living, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work in an organic, growing, and harmonious environment that allows the safety to be where it needs to be. So, what we're going to be doing, Carlie, we're going to be taking to the guys out here that we're training and the people that employ the people that we're training, and we're going to run a multi-leveled different process here. We're going to teach the people that need to be the pinnacle of responsibility where they've got to sit. We're going to provide them with the knowledge, the tools, the support, the backup. Like you've seen yourself, we meet on site with the authorities.
Yes.
We physically attend our clients' places, the service stations, and on the forecourt, we support our client base with the fact that they've got the EPA coming in, they've got the council coming in, they've got New South Wales Safe Work, Queensland IOR, they've got all the different authorities in all the states. We currently support South Australia, Western Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, the ACT, and up through Queensland. Tasmania and the Northern Territory are the only two places we currently haven't got ourselves actively supporting in that compliance and in that regulatory space with our client base. And look, it has been a massive group effort. Our clients, ourselves, our support, the network that we've been able to build for this industry is incredible. And honestly, we're unrivaled in terms of the support that we can bring to the marketplace.
100%. And I think we take the daunting factor out of dealing with compliance and the authorities. The fact that businesses know that they've got somebody in their team, and also that we're supporting the staff members with their training and stuff as well, so that they feel like we are that third party they can talk to. We're not dobbing on them to their bosses. They can talk to us about their concerns with their lack of training or with a knowledge gap that they have that has maybe highlighted areas that they're not personally comfortable with or situations they're not comfortable with at work, and they can speak to us openly about that. So we provide that ongoing support, and that's really important that we have a holistic approach and deal with both sides of it.
And we made a very deliberate point too. We actually go out in the field and run the training at a service station. We physically attend the site. We physically interact with the people. We physically walk the people up to the things that we're talking about. This is not built so that we can create an enterprise where we make money with online training and we run all these things and that's what we are. We're a training company. We are interacting with the client base. We're interacting with their employees in their space. Right? I've personally had a history of a emergency responder for a major fuel company. If they had a truck that rolled over, a boat that sank in a harbour, they had a problem with a pipeline somewhere, I was the person who had to do the emergency response, the initial responder.
Yeah.
Obviously, the state regulatory authorities like HAZMAT and those guys, they take control. But unlike like a lot of these guys would know that because they're part of the chain of responsibility in the consignment of fuel, they have an obligation to emergency response as a service station operator because they've got fuel coming to their site. They're in the chain of the logistics, so they've got a response there.
I think we've identified a bit of a gap in the knowledge of that people don't realise just how serious it is. But that's what Oracle Petroleum is here to make that not as daunting. It's serious, but it doesn't have to be complicated.
Correct. It's not complicated. It's not terrifying.
Yes.
And it's serious, but they can work with people that work with them, right? We don't work for our client base. We work with our client base, right? And as much as the client's always right and all the rest of it, we've actually got such a rapport with our client base and with their staff members that when they're not right, we tell them, I'm sorry, but you're not right because of this is the exposure you've got now because you're not doing that. So what we do and what we've done and what we're currently up to here with now with our client base out there in the marketplace, we're bringing that now back to a point where we're starting to provide the education and provide the observations that are happening, the wins and the losses from everywhere within this industry, across transportation, across the actual operations on the service station, the chain of responsibility laws for the how it's managed, how it's distributed, how it's handled, etc., etc. The biggest principle of all of this is hazard and risk.
Yes.
If you can identify the hazards and risks, now whether it's a car driving in a forecourt in a service station, whether it's a truck driving down the road with petrol in it, doesn't matter what it is. One of the episodes we're going to have happen here is how people can actually understand hazards and what hazard consequence likelihood determines to be a risk, and then how that risk gets controlled and the hierarchy of controls. But I'm not going to rip into hundreds of hours of conversations because a lot of you guys that have worked with me will have seen us on a forecourt and you'll go, man, this guy goes on and he talks and he talks and he carries on. But at the end of the day, you walk away from what we've done with you, and these guys know when they walk away what they've got, what they've had exposure to. Now, how do we know this? We know this, guys, because we've actually got a process in place where we've done the audits on your service station prior to the training.
Yes.
Right? So you've witnessed this yourself. You've been involved in this currently. We've sent people out there that are duly qualified, knowledgeable and accredited people, and they've literally done an audit on a service station. Now, as a client, you've been able to get a result of that audit. Good, bad or ugly is irrelevant. You've got a result of that audit. Now, after we've done the training, what have you seen in the marketplace from the knowledge, the perspective of the people? How more comfortable are they with the things that are going to make a difference?
They feel prepared to deal with whatever situation they're faced with because they understand that they are also part of that responsibility factor. Like I think there was a bit of a opinion that it didn't really come back on the employee where these programs are specifically making them aware that they do have a responsibility. You know, if they're witnessing these unsafe procedures and things happen on their shift, they're accountable. This prepares them to know what to do when they have to deal with authorities in any situations like that.
And that's one of the things, the audits that have been done after the training process, and this whole thing's not about training or selling training, the audit that's being done after training on the people that have been trained, it proves 100% that the people that have received the information, the knowledge, the learning that has relieved them and given them that preparedness for what's possibly going to happen, they're not terrified of their responsibilities anymore.
People at the end of the sessions come up and thank us for spending that time to, now that they feel prepared to be able to go and deal with these things, because they're also aware that the industry is being cracked down on certain things. Risk management and mitigation, this all sounds a little bit over the top of their heads, and like that, it's not my responsibility, but that gives them the practical steps. And you put it into really relatable terms, give them examples of how they do this automatically, and then get them thinking about the process of that in terms of their own workplace and how they can protect themselves and the customers. So the feedback that we're getting after this training is about more so how much they are prepared to do it, and knowing that they've got the support to be able to say, I've done this 6 months ago, what do I do in this situation? And they can review that information
And that's a great point to raise on, because we did this 6 months ago. Now, we didn't go and open a book and read something 6 months ago.
Yes.
We physically had someone walk us up to an item and a component of their workplace and say, this is this. This is what this does. These are the risks. These are the problems. These are the things that are associated with this that you've got. Now, 12 months, 6 months ago, et cetera, is one thing. But you go out into these places, and we know these problems aren't happening every day. I would be seeing it on the local news every night. So fortunately, they're not reoccurring and ongoing occurrences. The problem is, but when they do occur, they're such big things.
Yes.
So what we do is we teach you physically. We physically teach you. There's some places you can't reach because they're just 20 hours in an aeroplane, but we physically reach you. Now, after that, the obligation that we've given ourselves is to make sure that we continuously update your knowledge. So one of the things we've put this together for isn't to say, a year ago I showed you this, you've never had to touch it, you've never had to use it, right? You've done the day-to-day things you've had, but the emergencies haven't popped up on you. Most of the reasoning behind why they haven't popped up is because you're doing it right now. However, when we're in a situation where you're now got to be refreshed and we're retrained and re-knowledgeable, it's unacceptable in my mind to think that I've let a year go by. It's now time for me to charge someone for their update and go, yep, hand out the $100 bills to people. So what we've decided we're going to do, and our customer base is 100% behind this. What we've decided we're going to do is we're going to release periodic, whether it's every week, every month, every day, doesn't matter. We're going to release periodic snippets of information. And those snippets of information are going to be extremely poignant and targeted just to trigger those learnings that you've got. So we'll send out alert systems that'll be like, we'll talk to you about the alerts and we'll bring those alerts out there. And our expectation, and the employers and the brands of the service station industry that we work with are expecting that we are continuously triggering in the minds of the people on the coalface, the people that are actually physically there on the ground doing the job. Our role now is to have trained them, taught them, and then teach the people at this level their level of responsibility on their compliance and work with them on making sure they achieve it. But as it filters down to the day-to-day people on the ground, their job's no less important than the person that's in control or that owns the business. So our role in this is, because the people on the ground don't have brand corporate updates all the time at that level, we'll be bringing those updates, the education, the knowledge, the alerts, the communication. We'll be bringing that out there, and we'll actually be allocating that within the system on a score point system.
Yeah, and that's really exciting.
That's very exciting, because if there's one thing everybody wants to know is that, yep, I'm doing as well as I can.
Yes.
And what does doing as well as they can bring for them? Exactly what you touched on before. It allows a person to be able to say, oh, I am not terrified of this. I am prepared for this. I am continuously still knowing what I've got to know in the back of my mind.
Constant integration of and being able to apply these things they've learned, even if it was that 6 months ago training, by having that regular touch base and reaffirming those things, they're getting the chance to continue to integrate that into their practices.
Yeah. And look, I'm trying to learn to play the guitar at the moment. All right. Well, don't make jokes of Michael, but I'm trying at the moment to learn to play the guitar. And if there's one thing I've understood from this whole process, is that being able to constantly stay on top of what you're doing,
Yes.
constantly applying to it. Doesn't have to be 10 hours every day. I could pick one up and play 3 or 4 minutes and go, yep, I understand that now. And then it becomes a part of who I am when I'm playing my guitar. And then you'll learn how that integrates with another. So you change chords between your guitar and you learn to get these little bits that go in the middle. All of what we want these people that work within this industry to be able to do is exactly that. They've got the fundamental main bits because they've done the training, and then this whole year is going to be how they continuously maintain and be able to continue to tie it all together and make it all happen. That's a client ringing me right now, and I would almost guarantee you, yes, it is a client. They are ringing and they want help, and I'm not going to ignore them, but I'm not going to talk to them right now either. I'll ring them back. Anyway, at the end of the day, though, we're in a position where what we've done is actually, to me, it's off tap. To what we've done here, to me, is we are going to, and we are making a significant difference in the industry.
Yes.
Measurable. That's exactly what it comes down to, being measurable. That's why we're bringing into play this score system, because the scoring system is going to be able to measure the commitment of the brand,
Yes.
the owner and employer, the manager, and the employee. Right? And not that they're accountable to us, they are accountable to legislation, the law, and all the rest of it if something goes wrong. But the objective is for things to not go wrong. So, but that level of being able to know where are you up to in all of this, if in the worst case something goes wrong, you as a brand or an employer or as a person that's involved in this, you can go home at the end of the night and you can know that you didn't contribute to that because you weren't game, you were scared, you didn't have enough knowledge, you weren't prepared well enough for this. So training's one thing, and there's lots of other things that are going to come out in, will come out in this, are coming out in this, and this has been designed not to meet what we want, and not to meet what the authorities want, and not to meet what the brand want or what the owner wants. This has been brought out as a long-term project over the last probably 16 to 18 months of being able to go out into the marketplace, understand it better than we did, understand it at a ground level in the mind and the culture and the mindset of the people that are physically doing it. And we've taken a lot of time so that when we do this, we're actually doing it to the point where it's effective immediately. So I'm going to wrap up because I just keep going and going and going. And anyone that knows me knows this too, by the way. Anything you'd like to add, Carlie, to this so that the people out there that are going to be tuning in on a regular basis and listening to us on a regular basis, anything you would like to know? Because Carlie's the guru of IT behind all of this, right? I don't know any of that. I'm not involved in any of that. So from your perspective, how easy is this going to be for the listener?
It's very easy, and I think it's important to make that regular commitment to take 5 minutes and listen to some updates that come through, because even from a neuroscience point of view, it takes over 300 days to change a behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But if you change the core belief, then it takes 67 days.
So we can go from a whole year of hammering against somebody by explaining and letting them truly know the core belief behind what we were doing.
100%.
And then in the space of less than a couple of months or two months, they're basically in a position where now that behaviour's changed.
As long as you work on the core belief system, and it can go from a teaching to becoming an integrated piece of information, data in the brain, and then they have the chance to apply it. And they might not be, like having a fire at a service station every day,
Hopefully not.
These things, but just by running through that process, just by thinking it, you're actually taking those same steps to learning it and to applying it, what you would do. So if someone is regularly, once twice a week, checking out what the latest updates come through from Oracle, and that's part of that rewiring procedure as well, so they can really fully integrate these learnings into their being.
So that's only a matter of minutes a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this point to light, we've got a very experienced software developer in the background at the moment putting this together so that this will come out as a app. Listen to me with technology. This will come out as an app, and this app will be able to give a person a notification, and then in the car on the way to work, they can get an update on the industry. It's not something they've got to do outside of time and commit major time and hours to, yet the effectiveness is it takes it from 300 days to 67 days.
And that also brings me to another point of exactly why we're doing podcasts. Podcasts, you get 40% from our side, you get 40% more audience when you're doing a podcast rather than a normal video format or social media format. But that's because people love to micro learn. Like, we're addicted to information. We want to be able to drive, to cook dinner for the kids. We want to be able to do all those things and still multitask, still feel like we're getting value out of that time because we're so time poor. So being able to throw this and listen to this on the way to work, even if it's that couple minutes from the car up into your office, and just write, what are the updates now, and listen to that quick releases that we're going to do. That's part of continuing ongoing and rewiring process.
Exceptional. And doing it through the developed app that's coming out shortly, you'll actually have it automatically put to your score.
Yes.
So it'll be a permanent for you record of the fact that you've updated your skills, you've updated your knowledge. And the more important thing for me about all of this is the fact that the guys and girls out there that are doing this and that are going through this, they'll make the commitment to that because they'll want it, but also the safety implications of this, the protection of life, property, and people, the environment, the implementation is going to not be instantaneous. But if we said the implementation is going to be 6 months instead of a whole year, what a magnificent difference that's going to make. Magnificent difference we'll be able to make. But we can't do it without you guys. So we're going to need you to have to make the commitment. We might be boring. We try not to be. However, at the end of the day, once this starts to fall into being positively developed and positively delivered information, then we're not actually in a position where, oh, we have to listen to them again. You're actually going to be listening to it like going, oh, I wonder what happened yesterday or in the last week in the industry. You're going to actually want to know what happened.
And at any time, we'll also be able to, people will also be able to show a record of the fact that they've done this when it's to any authorities that come onto site or
A good point.
employers or any situation they have to deal with at any time. They can open up the app, show what training they've been through.
That's a great point, Carlie, because when you go out into the industry, if you've got certain tasks that you want to do, you've got to go and get a card for this and a white card for that and a green card. I'll tell you what we should do. Let's create the orange card. What do you reckon? Let's bring this to the industry so that not just the people that we're in a position we're currently supporting, but this industry can actually have something that the authorities can walk in and say, where's your card? As a person that works in this industry, it should increase your value.
100%, and be a transferable skill to wherever you are. Be able to show that it might not even be a service station, but I've had training in these modules.
Yeah.
And I think that value adds to the person.
Why we talk on the process of modules, right? I was fortunate enough to have sat on the Australian Skills Development Committee to assist the government, or the committee, in writing new skills matrices for the chain of responsibility laws, etc., accredited training courses. So in the development of these skills, not only because of our extensive knowledge of ourselves and the people that we work with, we've actually developed this and put it together in a format that conforms with the Australian Skills Development Committee process. So even though it's not an official skill in terms of you've got an accreditation from an RTO, registered training authority organisation, to be able to do this, you've actually got something that's in that format. So I think we need to create the orange card. I think because Oracle is orange, black and orange. So we'll create the black and orange card. Now, whether that's a physical card or an e-card or whatever it is, this app that we've got getting developed, it's going to give a person, as you just stated, the ability to be able to go and pick up their phone and go, bing, there you go. That's my list of accreditations in this industry.
100%.
And you could walk in out of one branded site to another branded site and say, hey, by the way, here's my history of employment. Here's my accreditations. Here's my training, my knowledge, my experiences. And you know what would be really good in that? Here's my score.
Yes.
Of my continuous update within this system.
Exactly. It remains as dynamic as the industry is.
Correct. Now, that's another point, and I know I was getting away from here very soon, but that's another point because it is an evolving, organic, dynamic industry. And the legislation changes. And when the legislation changes, the requirements change.
Yes.
We've got a team of people who are working on maintaining the ability to be able to say, we are providing information to the current standard, the current requirements, right, the current laws. Now, I use the word standard because we've got Australian standards. 60079 Part 10 Part 1 is the standard for the separation distances of ignition sources in hazardous zones.
Yeah.
Now, there wouldn't be too many people that work in our industry that would know what that all means. But by the time we finish the on-site training and then the continuous ongoing refreshers, we'll be in a position where we'll be able to do things with these guys and say to them, like, okay, here you are. This took place here on this site in China, in Afghanistan, in Mexico. It doesn't matter where it is around the world. We'll be able to bring world knowledge and world news and say to them, guys, this in your industry is applicable under this standard, this piece of law. And not trying to be lawyers or trying to use law to baffle people with oh, listen to how well we can speak, but more around the concept of people understanding why their industry is regulated the way it is, why you have to make sure that you put your cones around here when you've got a dip cap open and you're doing the dips at the end of the night. The why to me is the consequence behind the hazard. Why do you put your cones out? You put them out for a number of reasons. One, so someone doesn't run over me in a car because they can see me. Two, it's the exclusion zone for people to be able to walk into there whilst the cap's off because there's fuel vapor there, which is ignitable.
Exactly.
And if we can relate this quickly but succinctly, we're in a position where people will understand why I have to use them. And when they know why they'll have to use them, as you said earlier, they'll want to use them.
And I think that raises another really good point, is most people ask the how do I do something? They don't really understand the why they do it. That's a big important question.
Absolutely. And it's the why that actually makes people want to listen to something for 2 minutes on the way to work, because the consequence of why not, right, is far harder for someone than what is actually the, oh, why do I have to do that? The question that a lot of these guys are going to go through at the end of the day is, why wouldn't I do that?
Yes.
Right?
Am I not worth
that? Am I personally not worth that? Is my work colleague, is the person that, who's filling up a car on a forecourt not worth this? Why would I not actually take the time to do it properly?
100%.
And that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
And that comes back to what? The protection of life, property, and the people. And I keep banging on to that because we've got a significant client with hundreds of service stations, and we work with them in their corporate governance.
Yes.
And that realm, we've come to this: protect life, protect property, protect people. And in doing so, you're protecting your money, you're protecting your business, you're protecting everything that's about why you don't just get up and go and work for someone else, why you want to own and run a business.
And maintain that trust factor with staff, with stakeholders, with the community.
And community engagement within our principal business client base, that community engagement is incredibly important.
Yes.
It's one thing to have cheap or expensive fuel or cheap or expensive gas bottles, or it's one thing to be there in a price point, but for the community to partner with a service station in a community, especially small communities, they can be doing that because they understand the efforts that people have gone to.
Especially small communities, the service stations do actually become more of like a hub there. If
Correct.
you're going on a road trip, you go to that service station. What a lot of people don't take the time to think about is that service station attendant, the leadership style of the business owner is directly reflected in that attendant. And we all know what it's like to go into a service station. You get someone who's on their phone and can't bother looking up at you, and you're interrupting them, and you think, well, that's crap, I'm not going to spend my money there in this day and age where people have got so much choice, and we've got apps that tell us which service stations to go. They're going to walk. They're not going to come back to a service station where they've had a good experience, but I will go to a service station where I know that I like those people, and we can have a good banter and on my way, and that might cost me a couple extra cents a litre. But I prefer to do that rather than go down the road at the cheap one that is going to be a really bad experience.
Correct. And the other thing too, once the service stations go from taking 300 days to do something to a couple of months to getting to where they need to be, that price point is going to be variable anyway, because the cost of the problems after they've occurred is so significant. Anyway, that's what we're about. That's what we're going to do today. It was a very quick introduction. Quick introduction. However, look, watch this space. We're here to work with you guys. We're here to work for you guys. We're here to bring you the information, the knowledge, the training, simply the sharing and communicating what's happening. And we're here also because I've got a personal desire, because I've come out of compliance, I've come out of the safety industry through the mines, through construction, and now in petrochemical, and have been in petrochemical for 20 years. But out of my background from highly regulated and enforceable, when I came into the service station industry when it wasn't regulated, and not trying to be the service station police. However, that's the realm that the industry's actually in right now.
Yeah.
And our job is to actually help these guys and physically work this through with them so that the problems aren't there for them.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Watch this space. We'll be back. We're going to bring you some short bits and pieces. And good luck out there, and give us a ring if you need a hand.
See you.